Hello there. Welcome to Adulting with Hanni, the podcast where we talk about everything they should have taught you in school, but they didn't. I'm your host, Hanni, and this is episode 1 of Adulting with Hanni. Yes, it's finally happening. Our first official episode is here. And I'm excited about this one. It's going to be a good one, okay? And there's a reason why I picked this to be my first ever episode. And let's get into why that is. So, if you are watching this on YouTube, yes, before we get into this, if you are watching this on YouTube, please do not forget to hit that like button and leave a comment in the comment section down below. Let me know what episodes you would love to see. And if you are listening to this on your way home, on your way to work, on your way to school, on your way to somewhere, I love you. Thank you for tuning in to our first episode. So, for the first episode, I thought really deep about this one, and I decided it's gonna be an episode about my life story. I want you guys to get to know who Hanni is. Okay, this thing I always say to people is before you listen to what somebody has to say or before you take advice from anyone, you need to have an understanding or at least know who the person that you're getting this advice from is. The person that's giving you advice, their life stories and their life experiences and their beliefs are just as important as the type of advice that they will be giving you. Most of the time, I'm going to be talking about something or giving you advice or having conversations about anything on this podcast. It's going to be influenced by who I am, what I believe in, and what my life story is. And that's why I want the first episode of Adulting with Hanni to be a life story of who Hanni is. This is probably going to be the most important episode of this podcast. It's going to be the one episode you're always going to be coming back to. And yeah, that's why it's important for me. So let's get into it. So this is my story. My name is Hanni, and I'm a 27-year-old. I was born and raised in Okakarara. Well, I was born in Ochuarongo. My mom gave birth to me in a hospital in Ochuarongo, but I was raised in Okakarara in Odangarangombe. I was raised by my mother, my uncle, my aunts, my sisters, my cousins. I was raised by hostel matrons. When I say I was raised by the village, I mean it. It took a village to raise me. So I come from a very small family. I wouldn't say my family is big at all. It's a very small family, but it's an extended family. I had never lived in a household where it was just me and my mother. I was born, should I say out of wedlock? Not necessarily. So my mom and my dad got married when I was 6 months old. So yes, I was at the wedding. As much as I do not remember anything, what am I going to remember? I was 6 months old, guys, when my mom and my dad got married. So am I out of wedlock, in wedlock? It's up for interpretation, okay? So then when I was about a year or so, my mom gave birth to my small sister. And around the same time, my mom and my dad also got divorced. So I'm really not so sure about the timeline of whether my mom and dad got divorced while my mom was still pregnant with my younger sister or not. But yeah, they got a divorce, and so I do have a small bit of memory of just having my father around, but it's really not that much. So I was so young, I don't even remember what it felt like living in a household with your mom and your dad, because I don't really think I got to experience that. I mean, I was just a year and a few months when they got divorced, so there's no way I can tell. But I do remember, a few childhood memories from my father, having my father coming to visit me and spending time with me and my sister. those are small childhood memories that I remember of, my father being present in my life. I remember going into primary school and my father not being so involved anymore. I really cannot tell you why that was the case. It's still something that I am trying to, learn, figure out, ask my mom, ask my dad about it. But I also do not want to open old wounds. I mean, it will not be changing anything about their relationship, or it's not gonna, help me in any way, form or shape. I feel like knowing why they got divorced doesn't really matter to me. I think what matters to me is more of why, like why my father wasn't around. I think that's what matters to me. I do have small memories of him, really, but not much. I do have a lot of bad memories that I would like to fill with new memories. I'm in the process of filling them with new memories. And honestly speaking, I just believe in healing and moving forward from that situation with my dad and creating a relationship. Okay, and building on a relationship, which we have started doing. So that's my relationship with my dad, and that's pretty much all you're gonna know about my dad up until now. At least that's all I know about my dad for now, or my relationship with my dad. My relationship with my mother on the other side though was a rocky one. My mother was my rock. She was my support system. She was my everything. Um, my heart breaks also. She was just she was there always, but we didn't always have the best days. I remember also being with her and sometimes feeling like she didn't love me because obviously she's a parent and she has a single parent dealing with 3 kids at the time. So it couldn't have been easy on her. But one thing that I always knew about my mother is her love for me. I knew she'd always love me. I knew she would turn every rock, for my education especially. I knew if I needed money and it's probably for something stupid like going to a party or going to a trip. If I just said it was for school, she would be giving. She would somehow find that money, even though she didn't. So, and I knew she was very supportive towards my dreams, and she is. I don't know why I keep speaking in past tense, but she is the most supportive mother. Obviously, I've only had one mother, so I can't say she's the most supportive mother I've known or I know. She's my mother. I'm gonna be biased about that, but she's a very supportive woman. She's the bravest, most strongest woman that I know. One thing about my mother is she's shahingireka, shinakumusha, and that translates to if he doesn't talk, she's gonna figure it out. And yeah, she's figured out the most of the toughest situations. Okay, she has figured them out. And sometimes when I'm in a situation where I feel like I need to figure it out, like what are you doing, Hanni? You need to figure it out. I always ask myself, if you were your mom right now, what would you have done? What would you have said? So yes, she's my greatest role model, I would say, to some degree, obviously. But yeah, that's my mom, and that's my upbringing. Technically, I was raised by my mother, my grandparents, hostel matrons. So I started school when I was around the age of 6 in Ochuarongo, and yeah, I was in the hostel at the age of 6. I was in a Catholic hostel, and I'm not even gonna sugarcoat it. It was horrible. It sucked. I would not wish that on anyone else. I understand my mother really didn't have a choice. This was the only choice that she had, or at least I assumed it was. I'm sure she also didn't know half of the things we were going through at that hostel because she tried her best, to be honest. For a single mom at that age, working a 9 to 5, always out of town for work. Like being in the hostel was basically the best place that she could have put us into. I'm sure she didn't know half of the things what we were going through in this hostel, but she tried her best. So something I can share, I remember it was just one of those hostels where if you ever heard about a typical, most stereotype definition of what a hostel is like, that's what it was. So we were hungry all the time, but that's not because we didn't have food, like, or my mother didn't give us food. My mother would buy us food. But obviously you are a child. You don't know how to okuspara, you don't know how to eat sparsely. You don't know how to eat so that you can, have food for a longer time. So my mother would buy me food to obviously eat in the hostel, and I would finish that food within a week of being at the hostel. And you would be there for like 4 weeks before you could go home again and come back with new food. But I remember my from grade 1 up until like grade 5, my mom would be bringing me food every Friday. So that was fine. But when I got to grade 5, I remember that one Friday that my mother didn't bring me food, and it felt like how. The next Friday came and she didn't bring food again, and the next Friday came and she didn't bring food again, and it just became a thing of, yeah, it's not going to be happening every Friday. It's going to be happening once in a while, but not every Friday. So, but still, obviously, I had not learned to say, okay, I need to eat my food sparsely. And so I remember having to, that, it was rough. Okay, it was not the easiest. And I wouldn't blame my mother for that. I feel like she really thought that the food that she was bringing for me was enough. For the most, it was enough. It's just I was a child. I didn't know how to eat sparsely, whatever that word is supposed to be. And yeah, sometimes when the food is out, we would go to the place where the memes, we have these ladies that would sit by the fence of the school to sell food during break time. So you would go there and sometimes you would steal from them. And when you didn't manage to steal from them, you would eat from the floor. So that's what we would do. And then sometimes they would have this like pap that they would be giving at the back, and we would go eat that pap. But I remember one day my small sister bent so badly, and my mother obviously didn't know that's what we were doing. But when she learned that that was what we were doing, she met with one of our school teachers. I will never forget this lady, guys. Yeah, she was such an important person in my life as well. But that's why I'm saying I was raised by a lot of people. So I'll never forget this teacher. But she met with a teacher at my school, and she'd give her money monthly so that she can buy us food to eat during the break. And so we would go to her classroom, and she would have oros and maybe sometimes like $2. By then, $2 was a lot of money. You could at least buy like a fat cake and chips for break time. So yeah, that's what we would have every break time, like a oros and then maybe a fat cake and a chips. And yeah, that was my primary life. I went to a Catholic life. It was the hardest, y'all. But that hostel was just, yeah, no, it wasn't easy. But then I also started playing netball, and I started taking part in athletics. I was really good at those two things. And so they kind of helped me get into the high school that I got into. So I wasn't the smartest child, and the high school I went to was known for taking the best performing students from the other schools. So if you were the best performing student in your primary school, you were most likely going to be taken into this school. However, your girl here was not the smartest person. Yes, I'm still not the smartest person in the room, and I'm not the best performing person in the school. But I was always the girl that will give her best, the girl that will communicate when she's struggling and should ask for help. That's just me. So I would always try my best and put my best foot forward. And so because I was doing athletics and I was really good at netball. Okay, so I was the best netball player in my primary school at the time. So that um made it easier for me to get into the high school I went to. So I went to Chuarongo Secondary School, and my primary school was Pespana Primary School. So I went to Chuarongo Secondary School for my grade 8 all the way to my grade 12. But my first year of grade 8, not my first year, but my first semester term, I call terms because we had 3 terms at the time. So my first term of grade 8, I was not staying in the hostel because I had not gotten placed into the hostel. So I was staying with my uncle, who, again, I was raised by a lot of people, like I said. So he really installed so many lessons. It taught me so much. He taught me how to tie. Yeah. He taught me so much, and unfortunately, he's no longer with us. I lost him when I was like in grade 10, and he was my first real loss when it came to death. Yeah, he was my first real loss. Yeah. So I stayed with him my first term of grade 8, and then from the second term of grade 8, because I was doing sports at the school, I got into the hostel again. My mother was just one of those people that would just not give up. So she just kept fighting for me to get that place in that hostel. Yeah, the things that my mother would say for me to get in, then we don't want to get arrested. Let me just say there was some manipulation that went on there. Because one thing about my mother, she will make it happen. Like I said, she will make it happen. But yeah, I got into the hostel, and I was in the hostel from grade 8 all the way to grade 12. And during this time, well, okay, in let's say about, I'm not so sure exactly how old I was at this point, but I should have been grade 5, grade 6 there. My mom at the time had a hair salon, and in the hair salon she used to sell ice. And so one day she sent me and another guy. The guy was a little bit older than me, maybe 2 or 3 years older than me, but he was older than me. So my mom asked me and him to go to her shop, to go switch off the freezer, because there was no ice in the freezer, right? So she needed to switch off the freezer so it doesn't waste electricity. And yeah, as kids, we get there, and obviously my mom sent me with this guy that's older than me because she wanted him to be the one to do it. But me being me, and just, how do you say it? I was just it's patagaken. How do you say that in English, guys? It's patagaken. I don't know how to translate that into English, but I was just the child that they know it all, or think they know it all child. I think that's the best way I can translate that. But yeah, I decided to switch off the freezer to unplug the freezer without having to switch it off on the plug. And I got electrocuted, unfortunately. And in the moment when I got electrocuted, I was just like, it was just something, have you ever, it was something like, I know we have all experienced this, or at some point you might have experienced this, where you are unplugging an iron and then you feel that little bit of shock in your body. It was something similar, but this one was worse. Like, this one was painful. This one was shock, like real shock. I remember standing there looking confused, and this guy calling my name and me just staring at him like, yeah, I was just there staring at him. And not me showing you guys how I was looking come up, but if you're listening this on the audio version, then you obviously won't be able to see that. But picture me with my eyes wide open, looking into someone, but not looking into them, like looking through them, kind of thing. So that's what happened. And then so when that happened, he was there like, "Honey, are you fine? Honey, can you hear me?" And I'm like, "Yeah, okay, I'm fine, I'm fine." So I think like after a few minutes, not a few minutes, but a few seconds, I was like, "No, I'm fine." I was a little bit shaken up, obviously, but I was like, "I think I'm fine." So we got home. He told my mom about the situation. My mom was like, "Should I take you to the hospital?" And I was like, "No, I'm good. You don't need to take me to the hospital. I'm good." Little did I know I needed to go to the hospital, because after that I started experiencing, I had like a brown line on my tongue, on the inside of my tongue. I had a brown line on it on the side. And I told my mom about it, but by then it was like, it wasn't painful. It was just a brown line, and it was just like, I don't know what it is. It's not painful. You don't go to the doctor for something that's not painful, right? Yeah. So I remember getting to grade 6 and 7, even grade 8, and really struggling with hearing, and I didn't know what was going on. I just thought like maybe people are just speaking low or something. So I never really read into it. I remember having people frustrated at me for not hearing them. I remember having people calling me an ignorant child. And I remember people, "Omashengo shiranga ranga, omashengikango gugu, omashengo no winner." I don't know how to translate what I just said now into English, but basically that what they were saying is I didn't want to listen to them, or I was purposely ignoring them. And obviously I wasn't, but I can't, if I'm telling people that I can't hear you, I did not hear you, they're like, "No, you are lying." Like, how else am I gonna prove that I really can't hear them? I'm just a kid at this point. I'm in grade 7. Like, how can I do that? So I remember getting to high school, and one of my Shiro teacher and my Shiro teacher, okay, not one, she was the only Shiro teacher. My Shiro teacher and I would always get into arguments when it came to spelling tests. So in the Shiro, there's a lot of words that sound similar. It's not obviously the same word, but they sound very similar when you say them. So she would say one thing and I would write another. And then when it came to the marking, it would always be a back and forth with me and her, technically just fighting over what she said. And then she'd be like, "But I didn't say that. The rest of the class wrote that. How did you write that?" So yeah, we'd always argue over that. And I think she was the one that really saved me. Or I don't know if I'm gonna call it, if I'm supposed to say saved me, but technically in a way she saved me, because if she didn't pick it up, I don't think anyone would have ever picked it up, because yes, I would struggle with listening comprehensions, I would struggle with spelling test, but I really thought I was just really bad at listening comprehensions, or I thought I was really bad at spelling tests. So I thought I was really bad at languages, which yeah, I am bad at languages. But I thought that was all it was. I'm just bad at it and I can never be good at it. But she noticed that when she says one word, I write another. And so she would literally make me say what she said and then write. And then she would say a word, make me repeat what she said, and then have me write what I said she said. So, and then one day at the time, my mom had just had a knee surgery, and she was attending the same gym as this teacher of mine every Friday. And so this teacher of mine brought it to her attention that I think Hanni is hard of hearing, or like Hanni has a hearing problem. You should get her checked out. And so, oh, sorry. So she took me for a hearing test, and it turns out I was hard of hearing. So I do wear a hearing aid. I'm just trying to show the YouTube family that I'm wearing a hearing aid. I'm supposed to actually be wearing hearing aids in both ears, but at the moment I can only afford one. So I wear hearing aids on both sides. I first started I got my first hearing aid when I was in grade 10. You know, a girl has to pass her grade 10. You have to pass that spelling test of grade 10. So that's when I got my, not spelling test, but the listening comprehension for the grade 10 final exams. So I got my first hearing aid I got my first ever hearing aid around that time. And then that was basically me in high school. And from high school, I went to university. I did an honors degree in geoinformation science. I was really good at geography, and that's how I got into GIS. Like, I went on the internet and I Googled different courses at UNAM that are offered at UNAM, and GIS came up. So I was just Googling for courses that have anything to do with geography. And yeah, that's me. And I think another thing I would love to touch on is my faith and my personality. Yes, I'm a Christian. My relationship with God. We are working on it. That's all I can say for now. Yeah, that's really all I can say about my relationship with God. I am a Christian. I believe in God, but our relationship has been rocky, and we are working on that. And my personality, I am a very bubbly person. Like, I want to light up the room. I'm that person that walks into a space and I'm talking to everyone, but I'm very nervous around people I don't really know. You will find me in a corner at an event where I don't know anyone. But after a few hours of being there, and engaging with people, I'm going to tell you anything and everything there is to know about me. Yeah, I open up that easily. I'm an open book, but I am a very shy person, and so find it really hard to, initiate conversations with people. I am a very forgiving person. If you meet anyone that knows me, they will tell you that I do not know how to hold grudges, guys. I will get into an argument with you now, in 30 seconds, even a minute later, I've already forgotten about it. Not that I've forgotten about the argument, but I'm ready to move on from the argument. I'm ready to be civil with you again. And yeah, I do tend to forget about arguments as well. Like, I do tend to forget about things when somebody does me bad or somebody hurts my feelings. I tend to easily forgive. I feel like that's my greatest strength, but it's also a weakness that I have. And I don't know. It's just not in me. I don't know how to hold grudges. I don't know how to be angry. If the situation does not serve me, I'm gonna remove myself from the situation, and it's just that simple. I don't like stressing over things that I can't change. It is what it is. I take it like it comes. I take life as it comes. Yeah, that's me. That's my story, and that is who Hanni is. Hope y'all enjoyed this first episode, and hope you guys are excited for this podcast, and I hope you guys are excited to learn and grow with me. We're gonna be talking about everything to do with the relationship, finances. Gonna talk about academics, choosing the best universities, university life. We're gonna talk about anything and everything that they did not teach you in school, but they should have. And that's it from me. Thank you for tuning into this episode of Adulting with Hanni, and I can't wait to see you in the next one.